Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Scholar Gypsies. I'm delighted to have with me today AJ Cahill. He's a Galway businessman or tech entrepreneur. And thanks AJ for joining me.
Very welcome, Jerry. Good to talk to you.
Um, I suppose the main reason I wanted to talk to you is obviously you're involved in two projects. One's a media project called, I think it's registered as the Hum Media, and the other one is obviously the Irish People's Party. Um, Now, it's well known my views on mixing politics and media, but fair play to you. You've come on here to give your reasoning and rationale behind these two projects. AJ is just a little background on AJ. He's the former, well, I don't know, former comes CEO of WebText. Was recently sold, I think, middle of last year, and now he is the founder of the Irish People, along with David O'Reilly, and also he's the founder of the Hum. So I suppose AJ, if you want to just give a little introduction, background about yourself, where you've come from. I know you're in the tech industry, and also um, why you're doing what you're doing with the Hum Media, and also with the Irish People's Party.
Sure. Well, I'm from Galway, born and reared, but I've lived overseas, worked here and abroad, travelled a lot. Um, I've been back in Ireland probably, let me see, nearly 20 years, 15, 20 years. And, like a lot of people, I'm concerned about the direction of the country, where it has been taken in recent years. To a point of, I need to do something about it. So, in a previous occupation, I used to be a research engineer with Telecom Air and Aircom. And so I'd be used to looking at a problem. I'm an engineer. I like to tell people I'm a failed engineer, as in I have a degree in electronic communications, but my real forte is sort of understanding sort of the bridge between technology and people and how to get things done. But first of all, you need to understand the problem. And so when I look at what's going on in Ireland, originally I would have thought it was a political problem. Now, I'd regard it more of a spiritual problem. It's a good versus evil. You have basically, a lot of ideologies. You've got capture of the government policies and of the media narrative, by some people will call it woke, diversity, inclusion, equity, all of the above, all the new sort of critical race theory, queer theory, on and on it goes. And when you look a little closer, actually who's delivering that to academia and supporting it is NGOs, government, the super government organizations, whether it be the World Economic Forum and their client companies behind that, BlackRock and so on. And the direction of travel is, in my view, is some sort of totalitarian world where the very rich and you've basically Slavelandia. And so in essence, Western civilization, not just Ireland, but the complete West, is being deconstructed in front of our eyes. And that deconstruction is happening. The primary targets are children, family, nations. The weapons being used, to silence people or to control people is fear, demoralization, use of empathy, in particular, use of our kindness, ignorance by the media by not reporting what's actually happening and giving a sort of a beautiful picture of what's actually happening. They present a narrative that what's actually happening is great when people know deep down in their guts that there's something really, really wrong. And, and the final bit is, to accomplish that, you need to erosion of faith. You need people not to believe in anything except for the state and the world. So they've been at this for quite a while. It's in an advanced state. You just have to look at the media, the policies, the weaponized migration, culture Marxism. They couldn't get people to turn up for regular Marxism, so they swapped it for identity politics. The unions gave up on income for families and on housing, and adopted LBGT and identity politics. And if you just look at our government, which was created 100 years ago for the benefit of the Irish people, by the will of the Irish people, is now not working for the Irish people anymore. So that was my sort of analysis, of a high level, very quick analysis of what was happening. And I looked into some deep detail of how they did it. So I said, look, how can you arrest this, change it, stop it? Because, I have children. I live here. I don't know how long, I'm in my 50s. I don't know how long I'm going to be on this earth. But, Ireland's been good to me. I'm very proud to be Irish. I've always had a connection, as I think we all have. You meet a Paddy anywhere, which you have, different parts of the world, different parts of the country. The first question we ask each other is, where are you from and who do you know? And now that's now considered racist. It's our way of getting to establish that bond. All the things. I think Ireland's got its problems, even before its most recent set, and but it's a unique place and it's worth saving. And so I looked at what could be done, or if you were to try and undo this and change it. Sort of came up with 5 areas. One being media. You needed to expand the narrative right now. Whether it be migration. Migration is good and really good. Outside those bookends, you can't talk. Otherwise, you'll be deplatformed, cancelled. You won't be invited back, or you'll be called a racist or far right or xenophobe. And climate change is going to kill us this week or next week. And outside that, there's no conversation of what the effects of these policies are. And the same with whether it be COVID, on and on it goes. So media is very important. So there is a very strong alternative media, people like yourself and others. But I said, look, maybe I could do something in a slightly different way. And I'll just talk about that in a second. I looked at the political and said, okay, there is, nationalist parties, and, but I thought, look, there's a lot of people, even in every general election, every local election for yonks, who put themselves forward with the best intentions, but most of them get nowhere because they're independents and they don't have a brand and they aren't recognized. So I said, look, let's build a vehicle for independence with that branding. So the third area is cultural. The fourth is faith, and the fifth is legal. The legal challenges that need to be taken. Now, I don't have the time, energy, and resources to do all 5. So I said, look, I'd look at media and the political. So hence the home, which we've been trying to launch for a while, but there's a lot more to starting up a media channel, even if it has limited broadcasting, and and you start from scratch. And the political is the Irish people. So that's basically why I sort of got into it, and why I chose those areas, and some of what we're doing.
Okay. Quick question on the political Irish People's Party. So I heard you describe it as a technical group on somewhere, or it's on your website. Sorry. So a question I have for you is: will the Irish people be accepting government funding if it gets over 2% of the vote in the general election?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll accept funding from anywhere we can get at the moment. Absolutely. Why not?
Is it fair to call it a technical group if that's the case? It's a political party.
It's officially a political party, but in essence, how I describe it is the Irish People it's a registered political party, technically, established to bring together individuals who would normally run as independents, and by running them under a common brand and shared logo, which is the shamrock on the ballot paper, and shared principles, you're going to increase the chances of electoral success.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's just described as a technical group on the site. But so I take from that you mean it's going to be an unwhipped political party, more or less. How are you vetting candidates? And in specific reference here to guys like Andy Heisman, who announced that they were running as the Irish People Party, and kind of lads like Fergus Power, who've now kind of backed out, or it seems to me, I'm not sure about Fergus, but Andy Heisman is certainly not part of the equation now. What's your, what's your relationship with Andy Heisman?
It's excellent. I was talking to him a few days ago. Um,
So,
and he's decided for a bunch of reasons not to run.
so,
And he's going to concentrate on his other work.
so he's not going to run at all as a political candidate.
As far as I know, but I mean, he could change his mind. That's my understanding.
So like you don't see Andy Heisman as a problematic character.
You see, you got to understand that while it's a technical party, it's a party of independence. So in other words, whether it's Andy Heisman or someone else,
specifically referencing him now.
but there'll be more than Andy Heisman that turns up. So that may be, I don't see Andy as being problematic, in any sense. And the reason I say that is, there's probably no one in the country that, apart from himself and Ross Lahive, they've done more to sort of, and Enoch Burke, of course, to highlight the issues affecting the sexualization and confusion of children. That's a pretty noble thing to be doing.
Well, here's the argument I'd make. There's a certain shock value to what Andy Heisman's doing, and a number of other people. I think Enoch Burke is the person that pays the pound of flesh for on that subject. But there's the virality of what Andy Heisman does. You can't argue with that. In terms of the eyes he might bring on social media and stuff like that. But on the ground, he's doing huge damage in the towns and villages he's going into. So, so the Sovereign Voyage, was that something you were supportive of, or not?
Well, I hear what you say about. I'm not here to speak on behalf of Andy Heisman or in defence of him or against him.
Well, he was. I'll just put it to you this way: you obviously vetted him to a degree that he was going to run for the Irish people.
Yeah,
so
and he'd be welcome tomorrow morning. Andy Heisman, how you characterize him there. I wouldn't go along with that at all. That you talk about the damage he's done in these towns. Bringing awareness to his very serious issue.
He's going into. Here's what he's doing. He's going into towns, villages up along the Shannon, jumping in for half an hour, jumping back out again. You go into these towns and ask what the people on the ground that allegedly were trying to get on our side. They're terrified of these people coming in to their towns. So I judge things on success. Andy Heisman is not a success on the ground.
Well, again, you probably need an interview with Andy Heisman. But
he's somebody that you've supported and was a candidate for the Irish people.
I'd support Andy Heisman all day long.
That's great.
On a personal level, and if he wanted to run for us, I'd take him tomorrow morning. Andy Heisman, has done incredible work to protect children. Now, characterize if he had gone into towns and caused so much fear and terror, he would have been arrested. Maybe. Are we talking about the same guy?
Are you AJ? You're having a laugh?
No, I'm serious because
Andy Heisman instigated. I'll go a step further. He instigated his own arrest on St. Paddy's Day last year.
Yeah, he was a bit of an idiot to jump around the street. I saw the video.
Yeah, so you're on board with all that, so that's fine.
When you say on board with all that, a lot of people.
You just said that you'd be happy to have him in the Irish People's
Absolutely,
Party. Okay, so we
absolutely.
can. That answers that question.
Yeah,
Um, Listen, without getting into all that stuff there.
I think you'd. Sorry, I think you'd follow. You and a second question is, did I do I support or did I support the sovereign voyage? And the answer is yes.
Hmm, or financially.
Yeah, a little, a small, give him a few quid, nothing major.
Okay. Now I have a policy question. What's the Irish People's policy on immigration into the country, with specific reference to the abuse of the work visa system, and also we'll say the current refugee crisis, which I'd see as a this is an 80% economic migrant plantation.
Well, we don't have policies, we have principles, right? So our principle of migration is up on the website. It says sensible immigration, not open borders. But if and again, they're independent, so each person will define where they are on that spectrum. But where I am, the abuse asylum system is insane. The work visa system is also insane. We have a situation where we've up to over 70% of our young people want to leave the country because they feel they'll never have a life here, be able to establish a family, buy a home, even rent a home, and we're welcoming the world. So that it's insane. People. I think most people don't have a problem with immigration. What they have a problem is, an insane open border system for both, whether it be economic, welfare tours, abuse of our our refugee process, and the visa system. But that isn't down to the migrants. That's down to government policy. The problem is the policy, not the migrants.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I was asking you about the the policies of the party. Like, so for example, would you be calling for a full pause on all inward refugees into the country at the moment?
I would, yeah.
And the party?
You see, the party has principles. It says sensible immigration, not open borders.
So that means no, then.
No, you're saying, would I? The party is principles. In other words, it's a vehicle for independence. You would need to ask each of them. But in general, we're asking people who want to run for us around immigration, that's sensible immigration, not open borders.
So if people don't have a strong opinion on immigration, they're welcome into the Irish People's Party.
No, no. They need to have a position on immigration that reflects the principles.
But the principles are like sensible. We're not introducing sensible immigration policies at the moment, when we've taken in between work visas and refugees probably 300, maybe 350,000 over the last 2 years. So I would say a full pause of all.
Yeah, but firstly, yeah, but it's open borders right now. There's open borders. It's totally insane.
Well, you seem to be very reluctant to say stop.
No, I'd say stop all day. I'd say stop and deport.
Tell me this: are you running as a candidate yourself?
I haven't decided. Possibly, possibly not.
And is Dave O'Reilly?
I'm not sure. You're going to need to ask him.
AJ, you've set up a political party with David O'Reilly, and none of the two of you can. You should be able to know.
There's a very good chance, but I haven't made a full decision because there's two projects I'm working on, and they're taking up a lot of time. So I would like to. It all depends if I have the time, because maybe I'll have to spend the time servicing the party. Yeah, but I'd love to.
So two of you have set up this party. You can't confirm whether any of the two of you be running as candidates at this moment in time.
Well, both of us have talked about running, but it hasn't been decided.
But why did you set up a party then?
We set up a party as a vehicle for independence around the country to try and get people elected uh, it's not about getting us elected necessarily. It's about getting people all over the country who share the same worries, the same concerns, and want to do something about it to increase their chances. That's why I've
But
said it.
it's hugely undemocratic if the two founders of the party are not running as candidates.
You see, again, it's a party of independence.
Well,
Yeah, and
you
we probably will run, Jerry. We can play this back and forth all day, but like
Jesus, it's a political party. Like, why did you
it's a
set it up
vehicle.
if you're not going to run? You say it's a vehicle.
Yeah, it
It's
is a political
registered
party.
as a political party. You've just told me you're going to accept funding.
Yeah, yeah.
So 2/3 of the founders cannot tell me if they're going to run. And I'm asking this question because you, if you do get
Jerry,
candidates elected,
Jerry,
you're
my preference is to run. Jerry, uh, Dave would like to run. It's like, will we have the time? It's that simple. If we do, we will in a heartbeat.
if you okay. If you weren't sure about having the time, I'm not sure why you set up a political party, even if it's a technical platform for
We set up a
independence.
vehicle to try and get as many people. It isn't about getting us necessarily elected. It's getting people elected around the country so we can change the narrative, so we can
Yeah,
change the direction of this country. That's what we're trying to do.
yeah, but you still control the party as unelected members of it, like unelected.
Well, everyone could run and no one could be elected. We'll deal with that if we decide. Like, say we ran for election, and say we don't get elected, and someone else gets elected. You know, what do we do then? I don't know. Right now, it's about getting people elected. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay. I want. Okay. 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 I want to take you back. To. I want to take it back to web text because it's recently sold to Sharpen CX and their portfolio company for Teleo Capital, which would be a global investment vehicle, global hedge fund, or whatever they might be. Now, obviously, um, you're a startup. I suppose your expertise is in startups. I think you set up Airspeed Telecom as well, or you were a founder of that. Um, like the biggest abusers of the work visa system in Ireland has been the tech industry, and I'd like to get your views on how that came about in the aftermath of the financial crisis.
How what came about?
The expansion of the work visa system for the tech sector. So, like, would you see the tech sector as being the biggest abusers of the work visa system?
I don't know the numbers of the breakdown across the different sectors, but you know, are they abuser of it? You need a certain amount of people here if you're going to be the European headquarters for most global companies in the world. You're going to need people here, especially we've had people coming here for call centers for 20 years. At one stage, Ireland was, I think, number 2 in the world for call centers. Um, are they the biggest abuser? I don't know. But I would probably say that probably an awful lot of abuse also, a lot of abuse is happening in the retail trade, in low income jobs. You saw that recently where care assistants were outside the door from the Philippines and others looking for um, their families to be brought over. In response, what they did was they raised the minimum wage for them, which automatically brought over their families. So basically, yeah, we're importing people in that case from other countries, separating them from the families, driving down wages. And this is, what unions used to know is if you import cheap workers, you drive down wages.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'll give you an example. Last year, 18,000 citizenships were given out in Ireland, and the number one country that received them would have been India, which would be a high proportion of our tech sector here.
Well,
So
that what if you look at say locally here in Galway, I would have noticed during the lockdown. I think it was the first, maybe second lockdown. As it ended, suddenly I noticed a huge number of Indians around Galway, and you know, some of them would be working in tech, but I see them everywhere. I see them in petrol stations. I see them everywhere. So at the moment we're getting large numbers of Indians right across. It's all about it's cheap labor. Again, governments know this. Unions know this.
Are you pro more? You mentioned, we've become the center of European and US, headquarters for their global operations. Are you like, obviously, if we don't have the native population to support these enterprises, and what I was getting at there earlier is that Facebook, Twitter, Google, Yahoo, they all ramped into Ireland 2009, 2010 on the back of a commercial property crash and lots of vacant property. People won't remember. So and that also led to the subtle globalization of the population in Dublin. Like, it was one big element of it. So what I mean is, are you pro more multinationalism going forward um, into Ireland? Like,
if people are unemployed, am I against setting up companies? Allowing companies in here? No. What I'm against is,
well, we're at full employment, so that's not.
well, we are and we aren't. In other words, they say we're at full employment, but they say we need more people in. Either we are or we aren't. But yet we've tens of thousands of people here who've already come who are sitting on the dole. So,
well, my point is, where like Simon Coveney announced 1,000 jobs in Athenry out the road the other day. The majority of those people are going to come in from outside the country because the native population is dropping off a cliff. So,
correct.
That my point is, what is the point in bringing in 1,000 jobs or 2,000 jobs when you're having to import the people to work in them?
There's none. You see, those people who are coming in through the airport are passing our people leaving. Why are our people leaving? Because they can't afford to be here. So am I in favor of bringing in more people when our own people are leaving? No.
Okay. Well, okay. Right. I spoke to just a quick question on, there's a Northern Ireland element to the Irish People's Party called Northern NI People, and I believe it's being led by Tony Mallon. Is that correct?
Well, it's not a Northern Ireland element. There's a guy called Tony Mallon who's been running for politics up north for a while. I know Tony well, and Tony wants to use or work with us as closely as possible. We're not operating in the 6 counties. If he wants to operate up there and set up a thing called Northern Ireland People, absolutely. Will we cooperate with him? Yeah, but they're 2 separate entities.
He described them as sister entities. They haven't registered a political party yet.
Yeah, I suppose you could call them sister entities, but there is no entity. That's the thing. He's been talking about it for a while, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, I think he was down in Galway to some get-together you had a couple of weeks ago. I want to quote something he said. I'm actually going to be standing for them in Meath under the Irish people. So what happens in Southern Ireland, you need 2% of the vote overall in order to get X millions of pounds from the government. So I'm just going to help these guys get their 2%. So is Tony Mallon running in the Republic of Ireland?
He's asked to run and loud, but here's the thing: is the quote you just gave me, like, that's news to me. But the 2% comes from Dáil elections. It's
I know that.
It's not a Dáil election. So.
But you're running in the Dáil elections.
Well, when they come, but will Tony be running
the
Dáil elections? I don't know. He's asked to run in the locals. We said, look, if there's a free place and no one's run that constituency, you can have it.
Why are we importing people from West Belfast to run in the Republic of Ireland?
Importing, as far as the last time I looked, it was this was Ireland, and all the citizens.
I'm sorry, this is a local election. Why are you taking someone from West Belfast to run in a local election in County Louth?
It, again, I'd say to you is that this is Ireland. If I want to run in any part of the country, I can.
I have to live there.
No, you don't. No, you
If
don't.
I want to run in a local election, why
You
would I
don't.
run in a local election down in Cork if I live in County Galway?
Wouldn't
Is this
make.
how is this how you're going to be running candidates?
No, no, no. But he applied. I didn't ask him to. If he decided, if there's nothing there, and he wants to run, yeah, why not? Because again,
It's not
Jerry.
if he wants to run. He said he is running, and he's actually said he's doing you a favor. Like, this isn't me. He's put this up on Facebook Live. He's put a number of videos up about it, the Irish people.
Well,
So,
yeah, I'll have to have a word with him because this is all news to me.
so is he or is he not running for the Irish people in Louth?
Again, back to my original answer. I said that if there is a space there and no one else is running locally and he wants to run, yeah, we'll run him.
So you will run somebody that's from West Belfast who's going to be running in the Northern Ireland elections later in the year in a local constituency that he does not live in with no problem.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning, Jerry. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because we need to change the narrative, right? Now, here's the problem.
If you're going to cut all the corners of democracy, of fair play, I'm sorry, that's not okay.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was talking to the Irish.
You're not. I'll tell you this much: you're not talking to the home.
No, I didn't realize I was talking to Irish Freedom Movement chief policeman. But here's the reality: and I know this country's in a really desperate state. After the next election,
you don't have an immigration policy as a party, so I don't know exactly what you're trying to say. It is in a desperate state, and you've created a party that has no immigration policy, and you can't say if you're running or not. It's so desperate that you can't even tell me if you're going to be running in the election.
Jerry, I already told you I want to run, right? It's can I run?
Why can't, what would be holding you up from running?
Are we going to keep going back over the same questions?
Well, you're the one telling me this country's in a desperate place.
Yeah.
And you're saying, if I can run.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, Jerry, if I'm not busy, who do you think, organizes these things, puts the vehicle together, helps register candidates, helps get them set up. This takes organization. There isn't loads of people. There's lots of people standing around saying you could do it this way, you could do it that way. I think you shouldn't do this, and I think you shouldn't do that.
Well, I think
it's very easy to pass comment. Roll your sleeves up and do some work. You can stand on the ditch shouting down, telling people how to get things done, but there's very few people on the ground doing things. Right?
Yeah, you're not on the ground doing things.
Oh, believe me. The two vehicles we're talking about today very much involve me. Very much involve me. Okay. All the way along. All the way along.
I know you're invested in them, and you've obviously said you're financially invested in the media project, and you're also financially invested in other projects that have been going on.
When you say invested,
yeah.
You think this is some sort of money-making operation?
Well, no, I'm just I'm just saying.
No. Are you mad?
I didn't say that.
No,
I didn't say that.
You're saying investment. Here's the thing: put myself out like this, doing the Irish people, doing the hum. I've guaranteed one thing: I will never work in technology again. I just cancelled myself. Now, I'm a young enough guy. My career is over. Now, I'm also putting whatever a good bit of cash I have into it. Now, and whether it's figuring out the network stuff for the media, technical stuff, whether it be teleprompters, whether it's foot pedals, there's job after job. With the Irish people stuff, graphics, websites, on and on it goes.
Is
so
anyone knocking? Can I ask you a question? Is anyone knocking on doors?
Knocking on doors for what, Jerry?
Votes to make your case.
Not yet, but again, it's up to the individual candidates how they want to run their campaign. What we're going to do is provide them with branding, provide them with a registered party, so when someone looks down, they're able to find them. We're going to do marketing, off the core principles and the related messages. So what those independent candidates do, whether they knock on doors, give out leaflets, how they approach it, it's up to them.
Tell me, you've the home media. Have you launched date for that?
Nope. We were hoping this month. Fingers crossed we'll get it out this month. But no, sorry, we won't. I'm looking, it won't. It'll be next month at this stage. But it's frustrating. But there's a lot to do in both these projects. A lot, and there's a few hands.
Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. My information is that you're setting up like a news weather anchor program, and you're going to be investing in podcasts and that kind of stuff. Is that kind of the broad idea here, or do you want to go into that in a bit of detail?
Well, initially it's just going to be news and weather once a week. That's baby steps. We start off with that and see where we go.
Is David O'Reilly the news anchor for that program?
He is one of them, yeah.
Okay, so now, do you understand when you have somebody that up? Let me put it this way: if Claire Byrne announced tomorrow morning that she was becoming the president of People Before Profit or Fine Gael, we'd all have a problem.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So we have Dave. This is my problem with mixing news and politics. Is we've got the founder of a political party anchoring a news program. Could you give me an example where this setup has led to more truth and transparency and not narrative-driven content and propaganda?
Well, you seem to, I don't know, not understand, the history of media and politics and the relationship, historically, even in Ireland. Pádraig Pearse, what was the paper? Was it Clive Solis? Was that the one he wrote for? You had the Irish Press and De Valera, Fianna Fáil, with Fine Gael. In the US, you've CNN and the Democratic Party are hand in glove.
So you think CNN? You think that's a good example of media and politics working together?
I'm just saying, if you want to come closer, you'll see that right now, RT is, a lot of the mainstream media just regurgitate government policy.
I know that, but you're setting up the exact replica vehicle.
No.
How are you going to stop? David O'Reilly is going to be a news anchor, and he's also going to be possibly an election candidate, or possibly not.
Well,
but he's very.
It won't be both at the same time. Okay.
Well, you just told me earlier.
That's one of the issues you were asking me. You were giving out a few minutes ago that he isn't running.
Well, I did. I put it to.
It's sort of like it's like Jerry. You're looking for this gotcha moment.
I've got about 4 of the AJ. I hate to tell you, but I've got about 4 of them already. So.
Oh really? Okay, keep going.
So, AJ, I asked you the question. You just answered the media question. I asked you about David O'Reilly.
Jerry,
now you're telling me.
No, Jerry. It's the gotchas are in your head, right? Because
we'll see. We'll see.
Because it's like the approach you take to people. Like the country's in dire straits. There's resources from media to politics to NGOs, strangling the country. People are trying to do something about it, right? and it's like, oh, that you're not playing fair. Oh, that's wrong. Do you, have you got my approval? Like, come on, man. Come on. Like, get real. Get real.
You're a gas man. I'll give you that.
You can say that. You can say that.
So, AJ, you ran for election twice in
Yeah.
2007 and 2009 in Meath East and in Galway West.
Correct.
You also this is another element to it. Is like you were very much into the blogging back in 07 and 09 as a way of messaging. So
Sure.
it's kind of a bigger version of that scenario. I think McGill magazine voted you the best blogger in, I think it was 07 or 09 for your, I think it was Enough is Enough was the blog you had. And so I guess that politicians or political candidates want to get their message directly to the public. And you've had a history of trying to do that, even though you weren't elected in either of those two elections. But do you not see the problem with having like a news program anchored by the founder of a political party? You don't see anything wrong there at all.
Look, we're, as I said to you, it's a technical party for independents. Dave may or may not run as an independent. If he runs, obviously he can't be reporting on himself. If he doesn't run, there's no issue. I do not see the issue. You're asking.
But how can that media company ask any serious questions of any of the independent candidates that are representing the Irish People Party? Would you trust Claire Byrne to ask questions of People Before Profit if she was also the founder of People Before Profit? Would you trust that as
the objective isn't to interview candidates. The objective with the news thing is to tell the stories that aren't being told, and in particular to get the Irish people to hear the opinions of those who are protesting, those who are have an alternative view of what's happening in this country, and to also hear themselves. In other words, other Irish people like themselves. The objective is, the way we're going to run it isn't narrative. It's an old-fashioned way. We just let the facts speak for themselves. This is what happened.
Okay, so how are you gonna extract facts?
That's what journalists do. Yeah.
Well, David O'Reilly's not a journalist, so.
Well, here's the thing.
You're not a journalist.
Well, hold on a second. We're having to do something from scratch because the media organizations aren't doing it. So one of the things we started, last year was we started running training courses. In other words, putting people on training courses.
Who's we?
Sorry?
Who's we?
Me.
All right, okay.
The home, whatever you want to call it. So
well, the home's only. Yeah, go on.
So we've been putting people doing approved courses in journalism. Okay.
So you funded Andy Heisman's course.
Sorry?
Have you funded Andy Heisman's course?
Well, I don't talk about whose course I've funded or not funded, but yeah.
Well, you've just said you put people through it. I might as well say who you've put through.
No, I'm not going to talk about the people. As in,
so you're not saying you didn't, and you're not saying you did.
Go on. Okay, go on.
Is that your answer?
What I'm saying is, I'm not telling you who's been put on courses, who's been and who hasn't.
So yeah, I'm not going to get sued if I say you funded Andy Heisman's.
No, but the thing about it is, like you're first of all saying they're not journalists when you're told people are getting training in journalism. It's sort of like, oh, are they now journalists? Are they not? Oh, you try and look for something else. It's sort of like, it's just everything is, you get an answer.
Sorry.
The answer is good enough. It's like, again, it's the gotcha. It's the gotcha. So here we are.
Guys, well, Well, what would you? Okay, let me put it to you this way: what would you expect one of the home journalists to do if they had a difficult character to interview? Would you ask them to
Would you
just
consider
say
me a
no?
difficult character? I turn up on your
You're very
broadcast.
well. You're
Very
very
vague.
evasive and everything.
I think I've been pretty direct with you, Jerry. The problem is that you know you come with, rather than to ask questions, you come with a bias. You know, it's
What's the bias?
Sorry.
What's the bias?
What's the bias? It's you come with a negativity. You know.
You said, hold on now. You said I had a bias. What's the bias?
What's the bias?
Yeah, you're the one. You said I had a bias. What's the bias?
Well, what I'm getting from you is that something underhand has been done when it's been done in the open.
I've asked you a number of questions. It's not being done in the open.
What do you mean? Like, there's a registered political party. You know, there's a media channel that we're trying to launch. How more open can you get?
But I've just asked you if you're running. You're not sure.
But,
I asked about. I've asked about immigration policy.
There's a problem with the media. It's sort of like, you know, like, make up your mind. Like, make up your mind.
AJ,
that's bias right there. In other words,
AJ, AJ, you're embarrassing yourself now. So, look.
No, Jerry, it's the country is screwed.
I am no one's more well.
And the reason it doesn't get off the ground is because guys like you want to stand there and throw stones when people are actually trying to make something happen. When people are risking putting time, effort, resources, reputation, everything on the line for their country, it's not good enough for you, and you'll stand there with a wagging finger, deciding no or approve. You know, come on.
Well, you see, this is the problem you guys all have is you expect.
Sorry, who's you guys?
All of you, Andy Heisman, all the activist types. If you question anybody's what people are doing, you come back with this kind of you can't ask questions.
You see, there's the bias. I've asked you right there. You're interviewing me, and you're talking about these guys and referring to Andy Heisman.
Well, I'll name them. Hold on.
You've had me ask about the Sovereign Voyage, which I'm not on. You've had me ask about.
Sorry, you said you financially invested in the Sovereign.
No, I didn't invest. You see, you keep talking about invest. You know,
you gave money to the Sovereign Voyage.
I gave him a couple of quid. The way loads of people gave him a couple of quid. You know, but the thing about it is Andy Heisman. It's like, I've got to answer for Andy Heisman. You try to tell me that
because he was going to run for the Irish people 3 days ago.
He's not. And you asked me, you know, you try to make out he went into a town, or and terrified people on this, and it's sort of like you're talking to me, casting aspersions on Andy Heisman and asking me to answer for Andy Heisman. It's like
I'm asking you to answer for the Irish people.
Bias. It's just
that's not bias. You don't understand bias, obviously. I'm asking you to answer for the Irish People Party, who had him as an election candidate because he announced it himself.
Yeah, but it never happened.
Yeah,
might yet, but go on anyway.
Yeah, but sure. Look, if you're only looking for 2% of the vote and not 20, sure, maybe that'll
do. You talk about 2%, because you talk to a guy who's not part of the Irish people, or he's
running for the Irish people in County Louth. What are you on about?
He's asked to run. He may or may not run, and and he put something up live or something.
I'm quoting what he said.
I know, but it's all news to me. It's all news to me, It's sort of like you're asking me to answer for people,
for the Irish People Party and its candidate.
But like this guy has requested to run for us, but is not a member and it hasn't been decided. And we're looking to see if we can get someone local instead. You're asking me about Andy Heisman, I'm not Andy Heisman. It's sort of like, is there anyone else you'd like to ask me about? Like that's not part of what I'm doing.
I'm just anyone I've asked you about.
No, this is
part
the bias.
Of what you're doing.
This is the bias.
You don't understand.
It's looking to destroy. It's looking to destroy. It's looking to tear down.
Not at all. Not at all. All evidence,
Jerry. It's absolutely twisted.
all evidence to the contrary. Anyone I asked you about is
No,
related
it's like
directly to the Irish
if
People
it's all
Party.
evidence the contrary, you put up a Substack there a few days ago and you took it down, or you put a private when people
What are you on
hammered
about?
on the comments about
No, it's not
no.
private.
Well, it
No,
was. It was.
no. You can pay to read it.
Well, sorry, as in you put a subscriber only. It's sort
Yeah,
of like
I'm running an
people
independent platform.
are onto
I'm
this.
not
Like,
taking.
I
So
thought we
what's
were
wrong
going
with?
to have a normal conversation.
I've asked you some
No,
serious
and
questions, and
I've answered
you
the
don't.
best of my ability the questions on my own
Yeah,
behalf and what you tried to get me to answer for other people. And like, it's
you're
just,
the founder of the party. Is this just a whole mess of an organization?
we see,
It's your party. It's your
yeah,
party, and you're trying to talk as
it's
somebody
functioning
not
beautifully.
part of it.
But the thing about it is we were on Razor's Edge a few days ago. You sent me a message saying it was a rambling mess to interview.
Yeah,
You know,
because
it's
I didn't
like,
ask any questions. Is the Razor's Edge going to be part of the hum?
no,
No,
no, but why would it be?
I don't. I'm just asking.
No.
Okay. So let me just see what else have I got. Um. So do you have a position on the United Ireland?
Again, it's not one of the shared principles, but I'm all in favor of it.
So
Again,
the part.
we looked for stuff that a group of people as independent candidates could unify around. And there's 7 areas at the moment: family, migration, education, free speech, neutrality, rural and housing.
Housing's an issue.
Yeah, it sure is. It's up there. It's probably it's that and immigration are joined at the hip.
You see, well, I don't. Why do you say they're joined at the hip? They're two separate issues.
No, they're not.
Okay,
They're not, because
explain
it's
to
supply and
me.
demand. So
Well,
you bring in a few 100,000 people, you got to house them somewhere.
so your policy would not be to send back a lot of these non-EU asylum seekers that have come in the last 2 years,
Not send them back.
like not return them to their country of origin. So we'll
Anyone who shouldn't
say,
be here, anyone who shouldn't be here should be gone.
and who do you see as not shouldn't be here?
Anyone who's come here, claimed asylum, and then once they've been given leave to remain is returned on holidays. Anyone who's got citizenship, um, and then moved on and got citizenship the same. Anyone who's broken any serious criminal laws. But we're at the stage where, and that's a subset. We're at the stage where we're just taking everyone and housing them. Like over 100 people died in the streets last year. But it doesn't seem to matter anymore. We're building modular homes, but not for Irish people. Kind of weird. I think it's twisted. It's sick.
So, well, yeah, I do. Like, I don't disagree with you there. But we do have to. Sorry.
At last, we agree on something.
But I disagree. I think you're not like. I think the 300, whatever, the 200,000 people that have come in the last year have to be all gone through forensically, and regardless of whether they're leave to remain is only a temporary status, really. It's not. It's neither a yes nor a no. So, like, I don't like. I would say that the majority of them should probably be sent back to the country of origin. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, I've heard you talking about the constitution. You have a constitution. The party has a constitution. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is it up? Is it available to view, or I didn't see it up on the website?
No, it's not up on the website.
How many people are involved in the political entity at the moment in terms of that? Is there like
The
an
executive
organized?
the executive has 3 people. This is a micro
Okay.
party. It's a nucleus.
Okay.
It's a vehicle.
what kind of response have you been getting from candidates and potential interest in joining the party?
Well, we're not looking for members. We're looking for candidates. In other words, it's not a traditional party. We have members and discuss policies and all that sort of stuff. What we're looking
Okay,
for
so there's
candidates. In other words, independent candidates. So we've had inquiries, from about 20 to 30 people, more towards the 30 side so far.
okay. And how are you going about going about that process? Is it just is it purely online, or are you going around the country kind of giving, I don't know, presentations and stuff like that?
No, so right now it's just online, but where a lot of this came out of would have been sort of like it was an outpouring from some of the people that have been involved in Hold the Line. Dave, Vincent Carroll would have been involved, and so I spoke with Dave, and I said, look, maybe let's do something about it, and so the thought was that,
Okay.
look, there's good people out there, let's give them a vehicle, increase their chances, give them some branding, and then let them at it. And whatever, if they get elected, great. If they decide to join Fianna Fáil the next day, and that's fine. Just the hope is that if they stay as independent or whatever, they join Ireland First. That's fine. It's we just want these conversations to enter the political discourse and to start to have some power behind it. So the idea around vetting them, I think, is where you're going, is that we're going to try and use some of the people connected in the different areas with the Hold the Line, because I don't know someone in Cavan. I don't know someone. I don't know someone who would know. Are these people sound? Have they been doing something? Are they just pretending? Are they the best candidate if there's two or three of them? But I think what will happen is that'll be done. We'll basically ask locally about them, and then if they're moving ahead, is especially if there's more than one candidate, is go to some sort of interview stage by Zoom. Or now there is, I spoke to Dave, and I think he's heading around the country to a few different groups in the next few weeks to try and, he said, look, some people do online, but other people they need to sit down and talk with them.
So, kind of Hold the Line are on board with what you're like, are
No,
involved with what you're doing.
it came out of Hold the Line. So Hold the Line, is apolitical, does its thing, but some people involved in Hold the Line wanted to move political, while the organisation isn't political, right? You may have Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael members, it may have Sinn Féin members. I don't know. So it was some of those people, primarily, Dave and Vincent Carroll, who sort of suggested this, and I helped them when we ran with it, and got it registered.
Okay. Have you any links or conversations with, like, you're the latest group, and I will get around to
Sure.
the Independent Ireland group. They'd be the second. You're the latest two kids on the block, we'll say, politically. Have you any?
I think
like
there's also the Farmers Alliance. There's the third one
farm?
last week.
Yeah, and we'll be going. Well, hopefully we get into chat with some of them. I'm looking here. There's 28 political parties, believe it or not, in the country. Is there a danger that there's too many on the? There's almost too many political parties.
At this stage, no. And here's
No.
why: is my understanding is, again, I've heard this, through listen to various talks, where representatives of the parties have been asked that question. I understand between the lot of them, I think you're talking about somewhere between 20 to 40 candidates in the local elections. I'm sort of excluding the Europeans because I don't know who's doing what there, but there's over 160 different electoral areas in the local elections. So that means that people who are sort of like-minded, like myself or other people like who are in those other parties, won't have a candidate to vote for. So that was the primary idea behind the Irish people, is there's 3-4 good people, running in every election, is, hey, here's a brand that might help you. So we have somewhere between 20 to 40 people. Sorry, 20 to 30. It's close to 30, but we're expecting, more because they just haven't signed, but they've spoken to us. So the idea is to get that number up to, it'll be over 100. I'm hoping.
Okay.
You
Just
never
one.
know. People at the last minute, they suddenly, I'll do it, and then they're like, "Oh, I can't." People get nervous. Being cancelled is a big thing.
Yeah. Well, I can accept that. One final question. You mentioned at the beginning of the podcast there, that this is a kind of fight against good versus evil, Christian, and I think I heard you speak before that, Christian values and that kind of stuff. And I agree with you. So I'm just curious to know your own kind of spiritual path journey. Is how does that manifest for you, or
Yeah.
does it?
So yeah, well, initially again, Jerry, when I first looked at this, I thought it was a political problem, and the closer I looked at it, it appeared to be, it not appeared, I'm certain it's a spiritual war. It's just information. The battle space right now is information. My sort of background is I was raised a Catholic. I would have, like a lot of people, fallen away. Um, I've, lived a varied life. I used to party a lot. I haven't done that in about 30 years. I used to, do all sorts of, some stuff I wouldn't be proud of. But, you know, in recent years, I'm saying in the past 10 years, especially with my children, so 15, obviously I was bringing them to mass, trying to just give them the same values I would have got growing up, you know,
Hmm.
and then, but I was really just going through the motions. And, and then various things happened in my life, and, you know, some good, but some not so good. And I think when you're in the presence of evil, um, and you start to see evil, and I've known evil, um, you realize that, you know, this isn't good. And then when I looked closer at this political stuff here, that I thought was political, I could see the intent behind it. And I'm often reminded back to a Swedish professor. He was the main editor in the IPCC climate change documentation. He was the expert on sea level. So he used to record the stuff, or he used to edit it. And he was interviewed a few years ago before he died. I think his name was Nielsen or something like that. I'm probably getting it wrong. And he explained how it was nonsense. And he used to say how people would send him words and a diagram, and he'd go back and he'd say, "This is, you got to pick one or the other, contradict each other." And when he went to the authorities in the IPCC and explained, "Look, this is nonsense," and they were like, "No, no, no, we just, keep it going." And the interviewer asked him, and he said, "Why do you think this is happening?" And he thought about it very deeply, and he says, the only conclusion, he says, "I've thought about this many times, and the only place I can get to is it's evil." And so, the Catholic Church in Ireland, has a bad reputation because of the child abuse, which is valid. I believe the church still is, got serious issues. But the faith, when I separate it, is actually a beautiful faith. It's if I was an atheist, I'd want to live in a Catholic country, because if I was gay, they're not going to throw me from a roof. If I left the Catholic Church, they're not going to stone me for being an apostate. Apostasy. The worst they're going to do is pray for me. And also, it has a value system that, it's got redemption, it's got forgiveness, it's got, I pray for even the people that, we're combating, and so that's what's brought me back to faith is the goodness. And but I firmly believe that, you know, we can win back power, we can do all that stuff, but if we don't have a value system, now everyone doesn't need to be Catholic or whatever, but Europe as a whole, you know, it's, you know, I saw Thomas Sheridan, I believe, as a pagan, talk about the destruction of Western civilization, but Western civilization only existed because of logic and faith. In other words, it was the combination of science and Christianity that enabled Western civilization. And it's ironic, we've seen the death of both. We've seen the death of science and the death of faith. And so if you want it back, they're good places to start.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Even keel place to end.
Okay.
Look, AJ, thanks a million. I know we went back and forth there for a while, but that is what I do.
No problem.
So,
Yeah, I know. No problem.
and I wish you well, genuinely. And look, I agree with you on the space. I'm like, we're all on a spiritual path, and I think if you're not on one, you're going to be in trouble. We might be taking slow steps, some of us, but I'm very encouraged to hear what you said there at the end. So look, thanks a million for your time. I know you said you had to be out at 9:05 or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's so enough. Thank you.
So I'll just gonna end the recording here now. And just by the way, what's your website name? Do you want to advertise it?
It's the irishpeople.org.
The irishpeople.org for anyone interested. I'll put a link in the description
Yeah.
below for anyone that's interested.
God
And
bless you, Barry.
all right,
Thanks.
okay. I'm just gonna end the recording and